Thank you everyone for joining the Napa Countywide Active Transportation Plan workshop. We're so excited to have you here tonight and share updated information about the plan as well as get your feedback. Before we do so, we're going to go over a few Zoom instructions for this evening. So as I noted, this meeting is being recorded, just the main presentation will be. We are going to have some breakout rooms this evening. Those discussions will not be recorded. We will have dedicated note takers within each of those rooms to help collect your feedback, but know that that discussion is not going to be recorded. And we encourage you to share your opinions and speak freely during that time. During the main presentation, if you have any questions or need any technical assistance with Zoom, please feel free to use the chat function and someone will assist you. If you have any location-specific questions or comments, we encourage you to save those for the breakout room discussion, where there will be a dedicated time to go over those and respond to those. If you're dialing in, press *9 to raise your virtual hand and the facilitator can unmute you to ask a question. And during those breakout room discussions, we encourage you to remember that all perspectives are welcome and one person will speak at a time. We'll have a dedicated facilitator and note taker to help capture everyone's input. And so we are looking forward to having a robust discussion during those. And now I'd like to pass it over to Emily Shanty with GHD to go over our agenda for this evening.
Thanks, Regina. So we'll start by going over the plan, scope, and the work that we've done so far and get you oriented to the work that we've been doing. We'll go over how we developed the draft network recommendations that we're asking for your review and input on at this point in the process. And then as Regina mentioned, we'll break out into some small groups. My name is Emily Shandy. I'm the project manager for the consultant team that's leading this effort with a firm called GHD. And tonight we're going to be facilitated by staff from the Napa Valley Transportation Authority who are leading this planning effort, along with some of my colleagues from GHD and Circle Point, our partner who's leading the public engagement and community outreach portion of the project. And you'll get a chance to meet more of our team members in those breakout rooms later in the evening. I also know that we have some staff from the local agencies on, including Napa County, so we appreciate you being here with us this evening. Find my mouse again. So to start, we're going to launch a couple of polls, just make sure that everybody knows how to use the Zoom functionality and get to know you a little bit. So first, we'd like to know where in Napa County you live. We'll give folks a couple minutes to respond. All right, looks like Napa, Calistoga, Town of Yountville. Great. The second question we'd like to ask this evening is, how often do you walk and or bike? It's fantastic. We've got folks walking daily, several times per week. Wonderful. I'm excited for that. That means we'll likely have good input from you. You'll know these facilities and these areas of the county well. So thank you for that. So we wanted to start by explaining a little bit about why NVTA is working to develop this countywide active transportation plan. First and foremost, this is a tool for the county and local jurisdictions to get funding through competitive programs and other sources that require us to have an adopted active transportation plan that identifies these programs and infrastructure features that we'd like to implement throughout the county. It's also helping us prioritize where those investments make sense, individual streets and roads for safety and connecting to key destinations that we want to make safer and more comfortable for people to access on foot and on bicycle, including schools, jobs, parks, retail, and medical services. We want to make sure that we're remaining consistent with changes in regional and state guidance. So updating the previously adopted bicycle and pedestrian plans that were developed for the county into this combined active transportation plan to make sure that we're staying current with the state of the practice and the state of the guidance that's there. And then reflecting local needs and priorities, making sure that we're documenting input from you, the community, and that this plan really reflects what you would like to see happen in your neighborhood and in the places that you live and work and visit. We started this effort back in fall of 2024, kicking off the project and then working on collecting data, analyzing existing conditions, and conducting a first round of community engagement in spring of this year. We've been working through the summer to develop recommendations, and that's where we are today, is coming back to you, the community, with these draft recommendation networks and asking you to take a look at what we've done, take a look at the facilities that we've identified, and let us know how we did. Let us know what you love about them. Let us know what you wish would be a little different. Let us know what you're excited to see implemented and would like to prioritize as this goes forward. Over the winter, we'll be finalizing a draft of the plan and presenting that to NVTA's board and the local agencies for consideration, and then final adoption will happen in spring of 2026 is the target. So to date, we've completed a complete streets treatment toolkit with NVTA that documents the different types of active transportation facilities. So bicycle and pedestrian facilities, things like bike lanes, paths, separated bikeways, sidewalks, different types of crossing improvements, and provides not just a description of what those are, but some design guidance on where those might be best implemented and how to design them effectively to make sure that people are safe and comfortable. We've mapped the existing active transportation network in the county and then conducted community engagement earlier this spring. We've developed this draft of the proposed facilities for bicycle and pedestrian networks in the county, as well as a draft of proposed policies and programs that address at a higher level things that aren't necessarily tangible infrastructure on the ground, but will help us improve walking and biking through kind of wraparound policies in the county. And right now, as I said, we're in the middle of that second round of community engagement. So getting feedback on the draft recommendations that were developed so far. After this, we'll be looking at a demand assessment and an implementation plan. So we'll be taking these aspirational, long lists of identified projects and trying to prioritize it and identify where our intervention and investment could have the greatest benefit for the community, where it aligns with other efforts and ongoing projects that we're aware of, and help, again, think towards future grant funding applications and how we can set NVTA and the local jurisdictions in Napa County up for successfully documenting why these active transportation facilities and programs are worth investing in. That will all be captured in the draft plan that'll be presented, and then ultimately the final plan for adoption. In the first round of community engagement, we were asking people to help us identify where there were challenges and where there were opportunities in the bicycling and walking environment in Napa County. We held multiple in-person engagement events, including a workshop in the city of Napa that had over 80 people there, a more focused workshop in North County in Calistoga that had 15 people, and then numerous pop-up events where we went to existing community events, existing community group meetings, and shared information about the project, shared information about the online mapping tool and community input opportunities in Napa and St. Helena, American Canyon, and various other groups throughout the county. We used an interactive map online to help gather these location-based comments that had 143 unique comments placed on it, and almost 200 people responded to an online survey sharing their thoughts and concerns for bicycling and walking in the county. From there, we've developed a network of bicycle recommendations. That is one of the things we're asking you to look at tonight. So these draft networks are based on previous planning efforts. So those adopted plans that we've looked at what was recommended in the past, we've updated those and make sure we're capturing what's already been implemented and can be converted to an existing facility, what facilities maybe don't make sense or aren't in that jurisdiction's plans anymore and they'd like to remove from the active transportation plan going forward. And then we've built on those networks based on our understanding of the existing conditions in each community today, based on an analysis of the level of traffic stress that bicyclists experience. So identifying where there are high stress barriers or arterials that are difficult to bike along or across, that if we can close those gaps, we might open up more of the network and make people feel comfortable venturing out on foot or on bike. We've reviewed these draft networks with staff from each of the jurisdictions and made sure that they're comfortable with what's being proposed. And then we are here today asking for your feedback on these draft bicycle network facilities. For sidewalk recommendations, because Napa County is a big place, we took a little bit more of a focused approach. So it's really centered around the incorporated cities in the town in the county. So we inventoried all sidewalks and identified where there are gaps today, and then really moved forward with recommending sidewalk projects within 500 feet of what we're calling a point of interest, which could be a park, a school, a transit stop, those destinations that we're trying to connect people to for walking. We included proposed sidewalks on active transportation corridors where there's a proposed bicycle improvement that we're looking to prioritize active transportation modes along a certain corridor through a community. And then prioritizing completing the sidewalk on one side of the street before looking at gaps on the other side for completion as well. So where we have gaps on both sides of the street, trying to make sure that we're prioritizing one side of the street, at least having that complete and continuous pedestrian path. So we'll be going through the interactive mapping tool in a little bit more detail in the breakout rooms that we'll shift into shortly, but there are 3 pin options that you'll see when you open up the interactive map that we're asking for you to provide your input on. And so we're curious to hear from you. What do you love as you look through these recommendations for the bicycle network and the sidewalk network? What do you love? What is exciting to you that you're seeing on these maps? What's a facility that you've been hoping would be implemented and so you're excited to see move forward in this plan? What do you wish was different, whether that's a different type of facility than is currently shown on the draft recommended network? Or is there a place that there's a facility missing that you wish something would be proposed and you want us to take a second look at? And then anything else that you're wondering about. If you have another question, concern, other comment that you want to share with the project team, want us to consider, you're always welcome to leave those comments on the map as well. So I am going to hand it back over to Regina. She's going to set up another poll to shift us into some breakout rooms so that we can focus these discussions this evening on geographic areas within the county. We have a smaller group than I think we were anticipating tonight, so these may be small discussions in breakout rooms. We may also want to reconvene in the main room and hold the discussion as one group, if that's preferable as well, or if folks want to talk about multiple areas. But let's start with the breakout rooms and see how that works in the smaller places. So Regina, do you want to go over how this is going to work?
So please select the room using the poll that is launched currently to self-select which room you would like to discuss. And then once that poll is ended, I'll be putting people into breakout rooms shortly. During that time, if there's another area that you would like to be moved to and have a more dedicated, focused discussion on after you've shared your input on your current room, you're welcome to move around and we can help facilitate that. So just let your facilitator know that you would like to provide feedback about another area if that's the case, and then I'll help move you to the correct room to have that dedicated discussion there as well. So go ahead and take that poll. Great. It's like we have critical mass and all the breakout rooms will be open. So I'm going to go ahead and end that. And then we will end the poll now and you'll be put into your room shortly. And then we'll give warnings when those breakout rooms are wrapping up, and we'll communicate amongst the facilitators to make sure everyone has time to give their feedback. All right. So let me create breakout rooms. Oh, all rooms are open. Thanks, everyone. Have a great discussion. All right, facilitators, let me know if you need help moving into your room. I would say even if there's no attendees in there currently, go ahead and join it. And then we can, if someone wants to swap, we'll proceed from there.
Want to say again, Patrick just reiterated this in the City of Napa breakout room, but we just appreciate everyone's time and feedback this evening. Really appreciate everyone being here. So following the discussion about the draft facility networks, we also wanted to take some time to touch on a few of the draft policy and program recommendations that are also included in the plan. So the Active Transportation Plan will address not just infrastructure investment in the form of bicycle and pedestrian facilities on the ground, but also the intangible things, the policies that will influence more programmatic countywide efforts, as well as align us with some of that state and regional guidance. So we wanted to highlight just a few of these in the presentation this evening. Like the bicycle and pedestrian facility draft networks, this draft policy document was based on a review of the existing policies in the county today. So both at the Napa County level and again at the incorporated cities and towns, looking at what's in place today, talking with the community about what changes or new policies and programs they might like to see, and then reviewing that input and our recommendations with individual jurisdictions to make sure that they're each comfortable with what's being recommended in the plan ultimately. The hope with this document is that each of the jurisdictions will adopt this into their own local code, making the region more cohesive while still being responsive to the local context in each place. It'll help provide some guidance and structure around implementation of those recommended infrastructure investments and reflect some of the broader needs and priorities that are beyond the scope of this county-wide plan. Things like individual crossing locations and some of the other things that, at a county-wide level, we really need to address more with a methodology and a programmatic way that we're recommending investment and upgrades happen moving forward. We started with 5 goals that the plan is really trying to achieve. So we're looking at safety for all users of the transportation, and in particular, those who are vulnerable to crashes, people walking, people bicycling, people who aren't protected by a metal box driving on the roadways. We're thinking about equity and accessibility, supporting all ages and abilities, and making sure we prioritize underserved communities who may rely on walking and biking more heavily for their transportation needs. Making sure that the plan supports connectivity, so a network that makes sense and actually connects people to meaningful destinations, as well as connecting to other facilities on the network to open up access where people are trying to get and removing barriers. Thinking about sustainability and mode shift, trying to actually shift trips away from driving as we increase walking and bicycling, looking to the future and trying to be more sustainable in how people are moving around. And then also thinking about maintenance, evaluation, data collection, how we are ensuring that this plan is implementable and sustainable from a local agency perspective in terms of how they are maintaining and doing the upkeep on these facilities, and making sure that we're tracking performance of what's being done and also implementation of the plan so that we can monitor that progress and know what's working and what might need a different approach in the next update. So we wanted to highlight a few of the programs and policies that are recommended. The first one we wanted to touch on is bicycle parking and end of trip facilities. So with this policy, both long and short-term bicycle parking would be required at multifamily residential, office, public, and commercial buildings. So short-term bicycle parking, things like bicycle racks, typically outdoors near the entrance, easy for people to access who are stopping by for a short period of time or visiting a business. And long-term bicycle parking, including things like bicycle lockers or secure storage facilities that are often gated or require key access, either for employees or residents at multifamily buildings who are there for longer periods of time and need a more secure parking option. And employers with more than 50 full-time employees at their location would also be required to provide end-of-trip facilities, so showers and lockers and things to further support people commuting potentially a long distance by bicycle who then need to get ready for work at the end of that trip. For pedestrian crossings, we looked at prioritizing crossing enhancements along the Vision Zero high injury network. So where this previous planning effort identified corridors that are that have a higher than typical rate of collisions involving pedestrians, recommending that agencies focus on those to enhance the crosswalks that are out there today, whether that's through aligning with the recent Assembly Bill 413 that requires daylighting and improving visibility near crosswalks by prohibiting parking on street within 20 feet of the approach of a crosswalk, prioritizing curb extensions and other things, especially where we have children and other vulnerable pedestrians, so near schools, near parks, and on roads that are higher volumes, and also approaching this through driver education, not just infrastructure. Again, thinking about those wraparound programs that we can be implementing. Safe Routes to School is a program, a broader sort of overarching program that looks at educating, encouraging, and evaluating children and families walking and bicycling to school. So as is appropriate for the age group at different schools throughout the county, looking at things like walking school buses, bike rodeos that teach on-bike safety skills at elementary schools, bike safety and walk and roll to school encouragement days at all schools, teaching middle and high school students how to repair their bikes and learn some about bike mechanics, and then student-led encouragement about empowering our student leaders to take ownership of programs and implement things either with their peers or at the lower level schools. Pedestrian scale lighting, so bringing lighting down on sidewalks and pathways to 10 or 15 feet high and focusing that on illuminating walkways and pedestrian crossings of roadways. Prioritizing this along active transportation corridors where we have bicycle and pedestrian facilities either existing or proposed, especially in urban areas and on arterials where there are higher volumes of traffic. And then again, prioritizing intersection lighting along the high injury network. And construction detours. So where construction projects are disrupting normal operations of the street, thinking about detours to make sure that we're providing an equivalent level of comfort for people bicycling and walking compared to the existing facility. Whether that's by providing the detour route directly or simply making sure that the construction detour and other warning signs aren't placed in bike lanes and on sidewalks in a place where they create a new obstruction for folks walking and biking through the construction area. And this would apply to both public and private construction projects. Improvements at traffic signals could include leading pedestrian intervals where the pedestrian gets a head start across the intersection before the concurrent green phase for cars is begun. That improves visibility by helping pedestrians get out in front where they're more visible to drivers. So implementing something like this near schools, parks, hospitals, again, those locations where we expect higher volumes of pedestrians, but they may also be busier streets that are signalized at the intersections, and prioritizing those high injury network corridors where we really want to focus on safety, as well as looking at locations where prohibiting right turns on red, where a driver is turning through a crosswalk that may have a walk phase, could improve safety. So we've covered a lot of ground tonight. We've had some good conversations, but don't worry, tonight is not the only opportunity to share your input with us. The interactive map tools that we walked you through, as well as the online comment form for the draft programs and policies document, are all open until the end of next week. So you have until October 31st to think about this, poke around the maps in more detail, put your comments in, let us know what you think. We really value all of the feedback, and whether or not it's feedback that we can directly take action on and incorporate into this plan, all of that feedback will be consolidated and provided to the local agencies as well. And so even if it falls outside of our direct scope, we'll still make sure that it gets into the right hands. We'll be reviewing all of that feedback. We'll be taking these suggestions back to our jurisdiction partners and talking through any changes to the proposed network recommendations with them. And then we expect to have that draft plan available by February of next year, with plan adoption occurring shortly after that in the spring. Again, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us this evening. Patrick or Diana, I don't know if you have any closing final thoughts that you want to send us off with, but we're happy to take any questions that you have. And the project website and the QR code are there on the screen again as well if you want those.
Just say from the entire project team, thank you to all those who have attended, who have provided your thoughts and comments. And again, we do really look forward to seeing those comments at the end of the month, and continuing this conversation on through both plan adoption and then also implementation, which will be a very exciting time as many of these projects and programs get implemented in our communities. So thank you all.